All right. So good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming to the Alexander Resource Team report. I'm Mary Helmer. I'm the state coordinator for Main Street, Alabama. We're going to talk through each of the 4 points today and our initial findings and recommendations. And as they come up, they will each introduce their part that they've done and tell you a little bit about themselves. I have about 23, 24 years of Main Street experience, been doing it a while. I walked the walk that Jamie does as a local Main Street director in Emporia, Kansas. I was a state coordinator in Kansas, an independent contractor for a while on a project to take an old high school into a hotel and convention center in my hometown. It was while I was doing that I received an email from Alabama saying, hey, we're going to restart the state coordinating program. Would you be interested? And I was blessed to be selected for the position. So we have restarted the program in Alabama. It's been almost 6 years that we have been here as a restarted statewide program. So as I said, our team members, I've assembled a great group of people. They'll introduce themselves to you and give you their background. Trisha also works with me with Main Street, Alabama. Tripp Muldrow with Arnett, Muldrow & Associates, Jay Schlinsog with Downtown Professionals Network, and Randy Wilson with Community Design Solutions. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an overview of what Main Street was, because I understand there may be a few people in the room who aren't as familiar with the Main Street approach. The Main Street approach is right at 40 years. And in my estimation, it really came about because of the federal highway system. If you think about it, prior to that, we were pretty much shopping in that 30-mile radius. Then cars were much bigger, gas was cheap, and suddenly there was a highway system that took us everywhere. You throw the mall on top of that, and then the internet, everything changed. So that's what happened to your downtowns to begin with. So what happened is that, things just kind of started to fall apart. But there is hope for Main Street. You're starting to see a bounce back here in Alex City. People are really looking for something authentic, something that they can go to, people who remember their names, understand what it means that when you spend $1 in your downtown, it rotates in your community a lot more than it's going to be rotated at a big box store. And definitely if you spend it on the internet, it's probably not getting rotated here at all. The good thing about the highway and the good thing about the internet is they go both ways. So there is hope for you, and people are looking for that authentic, historic shopping environment. So where is your downtown heading? One of the things we're going to be talking to you guys about is how we're going to expand the business mix here. How to take it from what it was in the 50s that everybody wants to harken back to what it needs to be in 2020. So part of this will be talking about your market analysis, the market input. And it needs to remain a good effort of both public and private sectors. That is never going to change. It's never going to go away. It's important that both sides continue to work on the prosperity of your district. And it's going to take time. It takes time to build that capacity. It took time to get where you're at. It's going to take time to get where you want to go. And remember, too, that you wouldn't have a hospital without an administrator. You wouldn't have a city without a mayor. You need to have a full-time management within a downtown district. And as having been a local Main Street director for an eternity in Main Street world, I was there for 10 years, you really have to have somebody who wakes up and goes to sleep, eats, dreams, sometimes nightmares, what's happening within the district. Somebody who's thinking about it all the time because they love what they do. I have done a lot of things in my life, and I will tell you, hands down, my favorite job was being a local Main Street director. I love what I do now, but hands down, it's the coolest thing that you can do is know that what my mom always told us when we were kids is leave the world better than you found it. This is your opportunity to leave a little part of Alex City a little better than you found it, and Main Street's your vehicle. So there are some facts of life, though, about revitalization. You need to understand that most of your resources are going to be local. There is no magic wand. There is no one else coming in to save you. You need to work together, and the community needs to care. And what I tell communities when we come in and we talk to them about starting a Main Street program is Main Street works 100% of the time if you as a community choose to work it. You don't have to worry about me working it. You don't have to worry about any of these guys working it. We're in. I tried to get away and I got sucked back into the Main Street world. It is what it is. It gets in you. It gets in your heart and your soul, and it's everything you want to do. But I can't make you be passionate about what you need to do in your community. Only you can do that. So the 4-point approach involves organization, design, economic vitality, and promotion. And coincidentally, we're going to go in that order today. So I'm going to start with organization. Organization really does help you kind of sing out of the same songbook, having everybody understand the importance of downtown to the overall health and vitality of your community. So that's the organization piece. I'll go deeper into that. Design is about everything physical. Everything visible that lies within your scope falls within design. So it's your building facades, it's your streets, it's your windows, it's your displays, it's your alleys, it's your signage, it's coming into a community and knowing where you're going. All of that falls within design. Economic vitality is understanding how to take those existing businesses that you currently have here, who've supported you through everything, and make them stronger. And then while you're doing that, how do you allow for other entrepreneurs to come in and fill some empty spots that you have, or even recruit businesses? And promotion is about changing perceptions of the district. And in some cases, it's to invite people into your district who may not have been here for a while. It's about the image, changing those perceptions and images of your downtown, special events, ringing the cash registers for the business owners in the room. You want to make money. So those are the 4 points. And what makes the Main Street approach unique is the 8 guiding principles. And one of them is to be comprehensive, to work as equally as you can on all 4 points, to understand your assets. And as a former local director and state coordinator, 2 states, and I do a lot of work in other states, people don't realize their assets when they're coming through the back door at 6 o'clock in the morning and they're leaving at 8 o'clock at night. It's difficult to be a sole proprietor. So take some time, come in through your front door, get to know and see what's happening on the street again. Start looking at your building, look at the character of your community and the characters that are in your community, because the personalities are what make up your district. Another one is quality. We want to rush to do 500 things at once, and we only do 2 of them well. Why don't we do 4 things really, really well? So don't worry about quantity as much as worrying about quality. And then change. You cannot do everything the way it's always been done and expect things to be different. So understand the change piece. My personal favorite of the 8 guiding principles is implementation. Let's do something. We all have plans. Every city I've been in my many years of doing this has at least 5 to 105 plans on the shelf somewhere, most of which have never been implemented, most of which haven't been cracked open except for like this 6 months after the plan was completed. You have to implement. So part of what we're going to be doing with you after all this is done, we'll come back in, Trisha and I, and talk about how we can implement the suggestions that we're going to be making today. It's incremental, not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. Self-help, we already talked about that. And you have to have partnerships. A lot of times Main Street will want to close in and they want to own everything that goes on in the district. You do not need to do that. Your downtown is the one place in your community that everybody owns. Everybody has a piece of it. Everybody should feel comfortable here. Everybody should feel like they can contribute. So make sure you continue to build those partnerships. So I just wanted to give you a real brief overview of the Main Street approach, because I knew there were some people who were maybe a little bit new to this organization in the room. So I'm going to talk about organization briefly. So the organization plays that role in keeping the board, the committees, the staff, everybody in good shape by attracting people and money to the district and to things that you're wanting to do in the district. So those things fall into fundraising, volunteer management, and public relations. But you got to be organized. This is the foundation piece. It's the piece that people want to blow past because it's not always the fun stuff. It's not the fun, sexy promo stuff or the cute, lovely, wonderful, beyond cute design stuff, because wait till you see what he's done. But you can't do what they're going to talk about next without a good foundation, without a good quality organization piece. We did that community engagement. We had a lot of fun doing that. We did it in 3 different pieces. We did the piece where everybody came here and we talked about community assets and asset mapping. I'll talk about that here in a little bit. We met with the high school students. They gave us a ton of ideas. And then we also met outside of Piggly Wiggly, spent some time in the heat last night. It was fun. And ended up with 4 sheets in about an hour's time of what people wanted to see downtown. And as you can see, overwhelmingly, it's about kids and family. It's about, and I love that about Alex City. It's about your family. It's about food. It's about camaraderie. It's about coming together. Overwhelmingly, that's what we saw. When we talked about the asset mapping, we asked some very specific questions, and these were the three or four that rose to the top on each. So the first question we asked was, as you consider downtown Alex City today, what do you consider it to be the top strengths and assets? And the first one was historical appearance and location. Randy said it early the first day, just how lush and beautiful this part of the state is. I think Alabama's beautiful this time of year, even though I have to pop extra allergy pills. But this is a beautiful, beautiful state. People don't realize how pretty it is. This particular part of the state, really, really pretty. Arts and Entertainment District, a lot of communities don't have that yet. You guys already have yours in place. And a financially strong local business foundation. You are blessed to have a textile industry who's still supporting, the foundation is still supporting what happens in your community today. Downtown's biggest weaknesses and problems are, business hours aren't very long. A lot of businesses are closed on Monday. It's a little more difficult to get in and out of the businesses. Branding, and by that we mean a more cohesive understanding of what downtown is. We're going to be getting into that a little bit too. You see that family part that came out on the other piece? Here it is again. Lack of family-oriented activities. We want to do things together as a family. And a better connection to the lake is really an important piece. Then we asked, what do you want Alex City to be in 5 years? We started out with what goods and services you think you'll find in Alex City in 5 years' time. One was the Civic Center, or Performing Arts Center. More diverse food offerings. You're hungry and you want to hang out together. That's kind of what we got out of this. And downtown bank again was one of the things that kind of rose to the top. And what attractions and activities will you see? Again, things for children and youth, dining, and then loft apartments, people living upstairs downtown. You have a couple of those already, but you'll be surprised what vibrancy will be added to the district as you get more people living upstairs downtown. The other thing we need to be thinking about, I'm a big Game of Thrones fan. If you've never watched Game of Thrones, you don't understand this meme, but it's really cool. Winter is coming, like Sunday. I'm very excited. So governing documents, there are some things I think we need to look back at. You've been around for a long time. I would like to have a look at the maybe have a memorandum of understanding between you and other partners, so you're not stepping on each other. Everybody knows what everybody's responsibilities are, who's going to do what piece, and really outline who does what when. I think if we want to work with you, Main Street Alabama is going to work with Main Street Alexander City on bylaws. I think it's time to update and publish those bylaws so the public is very aware of what your bylaws are, when elections are being held, who's on the board, when you elect new people, all that kind of stuff. And then just, hey, I was in a Main Street community that's been around now in their 28th year. You just get used to things over time, and you need to go back and review policies and procedures. This is a pretty standard thing for an organization of this age. We need to think about the grassroots part of it. At the end of the day, Main Street is grassroots, boots on the ground, volunteer implementation-oriented organization. So we want to help you with that volunteer development, reaching out to more people, having that recruitment, retention, recognition, so we can get more people involved in the program. Main Street Alabama has purchased for all of our Main Street communities this CRM management system that will help people understand how to organize your Main Street program, how to put work plans in, how to make sure that your property listing is up to date, businesses are up to date. And we'll help you with that presentation on volunteer opportunities, how to publish your program of work so people know when they can volunteer. And since we're on volunteer, before you leave tonight, if you hear something that sounds really cool and I want to be involved in that, there are 4 big sheets of paper back there that are each of the 4 points, and you're saying, Mary's organization piece sounds the coolest. I want to be on that one. Just put your name on there. They will all advocate for their own piece before the night's over with. But you know what? I'm state coordinator, so I get to start and end, so I get to advocate twice. So organization's cool. Then look at student participation, how to host a volunteer event, recognition process. So we'll be working with you on that. And then communication. Making sure that you're working on your social media, you're working on getting those things up to date, but as understanding how you're going to brand, how you're going to organize who you are, that media relations, a media kit, how you're reporting your progress, what are your talking points, should you have block captains. All of these are things that as we come back in, with that strategic plan, we'll have a piece to help you formulate those things. And then partnership development. Again, Main Street doesn't have to own everything that happens in the district, so it's really important that we continue to engage the community. I said it 3 or 4 times already to the bigger groups. If you don't allow the community to participate on the front end, they will not participate on the back end. So it's so important the community continues to be involved and you continue to engage. Main Street needs to be the convener of the activities in the downtown district. Doesn't mean they have to do every single thing, but to convene and make sure you know what's happening. And then you're continually seeking out those new and diverse partners. Over my time as a Main Street director, our partnerships became more and more diverse and unexpected as time went by. We never would have thought of Menu Foods, which is a dog food plant, as a particular partner to our local organization. They ended up being one of our best friends. And my last piece is to really talk to you guys about that community involvement. One of the things that we pitched when we were in Marion, Alabama, was Dinner on Common Ground. And this is an opportunity. We also met with the Ministerial Association yesterday afternoon. It was a very rich conversation of how can we move things forward and get the community involved. So having people come together over food and song and religion. So that's an opportunity for you to get people into. You know, you hosted a while back, a couple of years ago now, it was a fundraising dinner. But what we suggested in Marion is that each of the churches contact their group, and you set up the chairs and tables downtown. Everybody gets to come to a free dinner. Maybe one church brings their appetizers and somebody else brings this. You can decide how you're going to have it be, like a potluck dinner. And then also have each of the churches bring in their best song from their choir. And then all the choirs can come together and sing one song together. That's going to start pulling people into the process. And then making sure that you allow people to be involved, allow them to raise their hands, allow them to be a part of the overall project. This is a really good starting point, breaking bread and singing together. So we highly encourage you to do this. And like I said, when we give you the full report, we're going to give you the breakdown on how to put this together. So that's just my quick piece on organization. The next up is Randy on design.
Thank you, Mary. Good afternoon. How are you all? Good. Thanks for coming out today. My name is Randy Wilson with Community Design Solutions out of Columbia, South Carolina, where I have the privilege of serving as the Main Street architect for the state of South Carolina. It's my pleasure to talk about design and planning related issues. And when Mary told me on the front end of this resource team that your strongest suit was design, I was skeptical, to be perfectly honest with you, until I showed up and within minutes of parking my car and getting my camera out, just saw exactly what she said, because you have a great downtown. And you know, the photos that I took, it's a rare place that I go and I take pictures from here to use in other places. And so my compliments to you all for the quality work that you've done on your facades, these installations of public parks. And so even, I love this little kind of, what do you call your little roundabout here? The roundabout, there you go. Just everything that you've done reeks of quality, and I just want to compliment you, even the current gestures on the alley here. But you know, like anything in life, we can always do better, and we can excel still more. And so my job here is pretty simple. It's just how do we move you from good to great? And so I would like to humbly suggest 4 items. Making the pedestrian priority in downtown, targeting your grants with laser-like focus, bringing some life to downtown with some fairly quick to implement, relatively inexpensive gestures, and lastly, to cast a bold vision to encapsulate a bold plan for the downtown area. Just take these one at a time. Prioritize the pedestrian. When I took these photos, I would have to say, you know, I wasn't quite as encouraged, because I want you just to ask and answer the question, is the pedestrian valued in these photographs? You know, I love your alley systems, but to me, that they afford an opportunity that hasn't quite yet been fully capitalized upon. Now here, you have to be a brave soul to want to cross this street, you know, across the railroad tracks, and especially without any guidance or rails about where to walk in that sort of, shall we call it, the sea that is the roadway and the railroad tracks. Now, if you back up a little bit more, of course, you can't even get to that place. And so obviously, we just need to make some gestures that put the pedestrian first. And here's the guiding philosophy that I'd like to encourage you going forward when it comes to downtown and about this, is downtown is for people. We're absolutely going to allow for cars to be here. We're going to make it as convenient for them to go through and park. But when it comes to considering our values for downtown, the pedestrian, the person, needs to always come first. So let's take a look at some recommendations. So I looked at 2 of your crosswalks. And I love this image right here because, again, it's a beautiful photograph of beautiful buildings. But I do think that we can give some things that would make it even better for the pedestrian themselves. And so we're going to start, well, first of all, let me point some things out. We do have a painted crosswalk, which is really good in terms of demarcating a place where the motorist needs to pay attention. When a pedestrian's in here, they have the priority. But we have some opportunities with planners here, and any time in the downtown you see these areas that are painted where you can't park and you can't drive, I'd say see if you can't recapture some of those from landscaped islands. And so here you can see if we just put in some sort of creative painted crosswalks, we planted that area and then put a balancing over here where we can't park or drive, we make a very simple gesture, but we've improved not only the safety for the pedestrian, I would humbly submit you've also improved the downtown appearance of the downtown. So in this one, we'll come back to crossing the railroad tracks and getting over to the other side. Everybody's laughing like, we can do this, I promise. So, but here, again, I think it's important to give people some guardrails, if you will, just some visual guardrails of what's the safest, quickest route to this island of refuge and then to cross the other way around. And again, I want to compliment you. You got the pedestrian actuated, signals to allow the pedestrian to stop the traffic so they can cross within a reasonable amount of time. Now, you will have to ask DOT whether or not you can saw cut that piece of concrete. My hope is you can. Put some ground covers or some landscaping, and again, just turn this sort of blank space into kind of a dedicated space. And by the way, the artwork is arbitrary. You can put whatever, would resonate with your local residents. I would also encourage just wayfinding signage for the pedestrian. Tripp is going to talk about a complete wayfinding system for the community as a whole that guides you to various assets and destinations. But as a walker, sometimes you want to know is how far is it for me to get to JR's? How far is it for me to get to such and such a place? And so just these simple gestures from Aiken, South Carolina, about within 1 minute you can get to Mellow Mushroom, this bar, and this restaurant. Also, downtown kiosks inform the pedestrian of things that they can do, shopping guides, dining guides, maps to navigate the area. And again, the architecture should reflect your place. In the short term, Mary hit the nail on the head. It's like we want to give you ambitious ideas, and we also want to give you ideas that you can do on Monday. And so if you wanted, you could actually erect temporary pedestrian wayfinding signage starting Monday. There's a great website called Walk Your City. And you literally go to the website, you enter the credentials, it spits out a sign, and you just wrap it around your existing poles. We do not want you to do this forever. But as a temporary solution, it's not a bad idea, especially while you're still waiting to do the branding and do your overall wayfinding system. The last thing we noticed is we heard a lot of conversation about parking. Can I get an amen? But here's the deal. I think part of it is not so much a parking quantity problem, it's a parking management issue. Because we saw lots of places to park, we just didn't know if we had permission to park there. There was no signage that said it was open to the public, and so you run the risk of, well, can I park here or can I not? And so simple signage, this is from Main Street program in Conway, South Carolina, tells you it's free parking and it's open to the public. And so whether it's as simple as this or as fancy as that from Michigan, demarcate public parking spaces so people know where they can park. The second recommendation that I want to make to take you from good to great is to take your absolutely stunningly good facade grant programs and for a short amount of time give them a little bit more specificity and a little bit more targeted focus. But I just want to compliment you. You have both an exterior facade grant program and an interior facade grant program. Well, it's a poor choice of words, an interior grant program. That's almost unheard of. And so you should be complimented for the ambitious approach, and you should thank those benefactors for funding those initiatives. What I would encourage you, and honestly I haven't thought about a specific time frame, but maybe for 12 to 18 months, why don't you direct those funds in a few very specific targeted areas that could give you the maximum impact in your downtown? Because as I looked around your downtown, to me, there were 4 areas that probably could use a bit more focus in taking it from good to great. And those are the rears of your buildings, signage, your alleys, and then a concept we're going to talk about, demising walls to create micro retail opportunities. Rears of buildings are always a challenge, okay? So don't feel like I or we are picking on you. It's hard anywhere, but particularly in courthouse towns or railroad towns, you necessarily, to get to the heart of the place, you're necessarily going to have to pass the rears of these buildings. And so we need to think about some treatments that can put our best foot forward when it comes to these. Here in Searcy, Arkansas, they provided grants specifically to enhance the rears of the buildings to create alternative entryways for the commercial shops in their downtown. In this town where I work on a weekly basis, we took a simpler, more humble approach. We just simply took a complementary palette of autumnal colors and we painted the rears of the buildings those colors so they all kind of related to each other. And then we erected this really simple screening 4x4 posts with 1x2 slats, painted them gray. And as you can see, they just simply conceal all that stuff that hangs out there. You know, the trash bins and the weather heads and the things of that nature. You can do some things like this. Or you can take an even more ambitious approach. These are some photographs that Jay captured in his work in Oxford, Michigan. They've just done an outstanding job. I mean, frankly, you can almost mistake the rears of these buildings for the fronts of these buildings. But the point is real simple. In a town like Alexandria City, which we talked about, every time you turn a corner, you're seeing something new. You can't only focus on the fronts of the buildings. We also need to pay attention to the rears of the buildings. Signage. You've got some phenomenal examples of good signage. I really want to give a shout out, especially to Cloud9 and Downtown Girl. But I want all of the signage to downtown to be of that caliber or even better. And by the way, if I didn't call out yours, it wasn't because it wasn't good. I just can't remember them all right? But there's a program that I would like to commend that you might want to consider as a supplement to your facade grant specifically for the purpose of signage. And it's called CoSign. And it flows out of the American Sign Museum in Cincinnati, Ohio, where they pair artists with businesses and sign makers to create these signs that are above. I mean, they're just, the standard is of immense quality. Here, so what they do is they work with the owners. They come up with a design. This is one for Cindy's Boutique. You're going to see the actual implementation in a second. AOK Antiques. And then what they do is right before the day they're going to install them all, they kind of display them in a gallery so it almost becomes sort of this big celebration. And then the next day, everybody goes out and they watch each of the respective businesses getting their signs installed. And so, I mean, look at Cindy. I mean, she is so happy. You know, you could tell she's excited about this. But look, would you not buy an antique toy from a store with a sign that killer? And so, again, we just want to make sure that we're always striving for the best possible quality in our signage. If you decide to do either CoSign, I mean, there are requirements to do their program, or you can do it yourself. We just finished a master plan in Anderson, South Carolina, and they appealed to banks to sponsor this program, and it's called the CoSign problem because banks co-sign for loans. Get it? And so as a result, they were really anxious to get on board and sponsor it. And my suspicion is you got some local banks that would probably be willing to do the same thing. The third area that we want to target these funds for a short amount of time are your alleys, okay? Now, everybody strap on your seatbelts. I'm going to give you Alleys 101 in 45 seconds or less. Here we go. Number one, don't think of your alleys as only places or only pathways, but think of them as both places and pathways. And when you do, you need to pay attention to what happens above you, beside you, and underneath you. The lighting that both promotes safety as well as an implied ceiling, because human beings like to be in spaces where they feel a sense of enclosure. The ground texture becomes really important. You know, asphalt's good, pavers are better. And think of neutral colors to stand the test of time. And then don't forget about the walls, whether it's just murals or art, you know, things like that that provide interest as you're passing through the alley. And again, just populate it with art and other installations that create that whimsical factor, that unexpected thing that you see when you're passing through the alleys themselves. Now, the thing about alleys, of course, is they provide a very functional utilitarian purpose. It's where the stuff hangs out in the backs or the sides of our buildings. Don't fight that. You know, you take those, you know, I love this idea of hooking the trash up high so animals and things don't get to it. You know, just wrapping your electrical boxes with vinyl enclosures, or simply just painting the boxes themselves. And then it finally is demarcating arrival into these alleys, give them a special sense of arrival. One case study from work that Tripp and I did in Gulfport was Fishbone Alley. And you can see there's not an alley in downtown Alex City that looks worse than this one, right? And I wanted to intentionally show this because I don't want you to work too hard on these. Don't try to make it too pretty. This was the final result. You know, a little gateway, a bunch of string lights, and all these are just wood enclosures around trash cans that local artists painted. It's nothing more than that. And we decided to just let it all hang out. And so all of these boxes and junction boxes, we just had an artist just paint them. And it just turned these sort of utilitarian items into something in sort of whimsical moments. So I decided to do a rendering here to accomplish a couple of things. One, to talk about alley treatments, but in this case, I also, and I hope I don't step on anybody's toes, want to talk about this odd sort of little, is it a street or is it not a street? Or is it a park or is it a drop-off? What is that? Because to us, it's a missed opportunity. Because if it stays the way it is, you really can't allow for this location to both be a place as well as a pathway. Right now, it's only a pathway. And so here are some humble suggestions, again, starting with simple and inexpensive to more expensive. So the first thing is just to erect some planters, these large sort of planters that kind of, we're gonna maintain enough room for the automobile to continue to circulate around this place. But we want to demarcate an area or a zone where people could sit and dine outside, because there's nothing that's going to promote this notion that downtown is active and alive than seeing people outside playing and dining and things of that nature. And I would love for somebody to put a mural on that wall if they could, and again, continuing the tradition of the artistic crosswalks. It would be pretty expensive to repave that, so all that we would suggest is you stain the asphalt. Just stain it like a brick red so it kind of has a hint of looking like brick pavers, and that way you don't have to address the drainage issues. It works the same way it does now. But then long term, consider branding this alley, and for now we just call it Parkway Passage because it gets you to your parks. But you need to think about that and brand it even better going forward, so before and after, hopefully you like the after a little bit better. This one is a low priority, and this is a long-term initiative. It's what we call giving grants for demising walls to create micro-retail opportunity. There are certain businesses that are occupying your stores that aren't retail or restaurant in nature. And we're fine with that. We need places for professional offices and nonprofits to exist. However, they don't necessarily need storefront frontage. And so in certain situations, they might be willing to carve out, 300, 400, 500 square feet on the front side of their building. And all of a sudden now that lady who wants to open the vintage clothing shop, or the young man who wants to start the gourmet popsicle shop, they can't afford a space this big. They just need to afford a small space. And what we can do now is create these micro retail opportunities that are going to activate and animate your downtown, and everybody wins. The professional office remains in the back, right where they've always been, but now you have all these micro retail ventures up against the sidewalk. This is just an illustration from Paris, Arkansas, where I just artificially created on the first floor in the front would be a small jewelry store, but you create the small side entry down a hallway to get to the attorney who is in the rear. Last but not least, I want to make sure I've told you what you should do to change your facade grant approach, but I also want to tell you, just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, the exterior and the interior grants that you're doing, keep doing them. But I did want to do one illustration of a potential use of both your current facade grant as well as a product I'm going to talk about in the next session. And that has to do with vibrancy amenities. But we're going to take JR's here and just do a little of a facade study. And then we're also especially going to take advantage of looking at this wall, which in my humble opinion is a fairly important canvas that needs to be hid in the life of your downtown, especially because of its proximity to Strand Park. And so we'll start with that wall first. And you can see, because I knew you hosted Jazz in the Park here, picked a very kind of colorful jazz motif. And you can see all the instruments are kind of aiming down to this one point. And I would just advocate for creating as many Instagram moments in your downtown as you can, okay? Kids want to take their photo somewhere and make it memorable. Create those opportunities and brand this, I was gonna say snot, but brand the you know what out of it. So, so JR's, all I did is I just took his green and just darkened it and intensified it a little bit. And then I love the tradition right out here at Carlisle's, and you have it over at Frozen's as well, just, you know, the stained or the painted kind of ghost sign look. And so we decided to take this approach here, and then we just rebranded slightly. We understand that all of this is JR's, Bar and Grill, but this notion of maybe with a grant that allows him to pull a roll-up door, so depending on the weather, it's either open to the outside or not. This could be, it can serve as auxiliary, you know, from the current restaurant, or it could be a kind of a freestanding space. Yeah, so that's that building.
That's great.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that very much. So here's a nasty little gas station I worked on a few weeks ago. And here's the back of it. And I just want to talk about the power of these Instagram moments. So this was, we have an artist from Arab, Alabama right now painting this building. Okay? And so you can see here, we just painted the Instagram moment wings, and we went ahead and did the hashtag so that every time somebody takes the photo, our brand equity goes up. And so I'd advocate for you doing the same thing. Create those moments throughout your downtown for the youngsters to want to get their picture taken. But again, brand it, brand it, brand it. Get credit out of it. The third body of recommendations I want to make are the ones we get kind of excited about, because these are the things you can start doing Monday that can have profound impact in a short amount of time that's going to bring downtown to life. I think everybody recognized the photo here. This is Strand Park. And what's wrong with this photo besides the fact that it's blue?
No people on it, for one thing.
That's the exact right answer. Yeah, it's a beautiful park. I took that photo yesterday when it was just stunningly gorgeous and there were no people in it. And so what are some things that we can do to get people to populate our public spaces in the downtown? And I would advocate for a concept we call vibrancy grants and vibrancy amenities. Okay, vibrancy grants are just like the facade grants, they're incentives to help improve private property that meets the public realm. Vibrancy amenities are public realm installations done by the public sector, i.e. the city or the Main Street program or somebody like that. Because to me, if we're going to fund signs, why would we not also fund the things that would activate and animate our downtown with splashes of color and interactivity? And so if a restaurant wants to do colorful bistro tables and chairs and umbrellas, might we consider a small grant that would help subsidize that? You know, because again, to me, there's nothing that says activity in your downtown like outdoor dining. A lot of people complain that our sidewalks are too narrow. Look what they did in Kent, Michigan. These are just small fold-up tables that can lay up against the wall. It only takes up about 18 inches. And so you get this infusion of color from the umbrellas. You create these outdoor sitting moments, and it doesn't take up a whole lot of space. But again, fun treatments out of stores like these more, shall we say, comfortable couches, or what are those called, benches? You know, bicycles, flowers, roll-up doors, the kinds of things that are going to just activate and animate our buildings. But then especially make sure we do this in the public realm. Your parks, your open spaces, pocket parks, places where buildings used to be, but there's an open space, Strand Park. I mean, how much would it cost for you to populate Strand Park with giant Jenga and cornhole and things like bocce ball? Not that much. And what you're doing is you're creating those activities. What was the number one thing on Mary's list that everybody said they wanted in the future? Activities for the kids and the youth and families. So give them things to do in their downtown to promote what we call downtown stickability. You come downtown and you do lots and lots of things. Bocce in a park, this is in Columbus, Georgia, giant Jenga, checkers, Scrabble. Interactive pieces of art. This artist, Eileen, is my neighbor. She welded together various propane tanks of different sizes. So you sit down and you play them, and they play out of tune. You know, these are kind of ubiquitous now, but just what do you want this place to be, or what do you want to experience before you die? Create all these moments for people to interact with your place. Put some chairs down in Strand Park, but for goodness sakes, let them be movable. Because you never know if you're going to be by yourself, in a group of 2, a group of 4, a group of 6. You don't know if you want to sit in the sun or shade. Make them movable, portable. And I know the objection, but people are going to steal them. You will be surprised. Number one, when you treat the community like you want to be treated, they respond in kind. Number two, you can always mount fake cameras, okay? Just whatever you need to do. So this is a concept in Ponce City Market in Atlanta. Of course, these are portable chairs, but the thing in the background is what I want to focus you on. This is an Eno hotel. Anybody familiar with Enos, portable hammocks? There you go. Create these opportunities. If you don't have enough trees close together downtown, go ahead and just erect, a temporary structure. If you want students from CAC and students from the high schools to stay in your downtown, there you go. I called my youngest daughter the other day. I said, "What are you doing?" Sitting in an Eno, studying my nursing courses. I mean, that's what they do. And then this is a poor man gesture. This is that town that I work in each week called Lake City. We worked with our local high school art departments and the local technical school, and we did 4x8 sheets of plywood and created a miniature golf course that were portable. Each one is different. At times, as you can see back here in this pocket park, we put them all in one place. You can play an entire course. At other times, we distribute them through the downtown. Tripp and I just worked in North Augusta. They want to do this, and during Masters Week, you get to play through downtown, which would be a really, really cool idea. Last but not least for me, I think one of the most important things that needs to be done, we heard this over and over and over, is downtown needs a bold vision that everybody can rally around. We asked some hard questions while we were here. If I was the developer and I came to town and I was thinking about doing this and that with the buildings, and I said, what are your plans for downtown? Could you show me a picture? There were a lot of crickets. And so we want to advocate for crafting a plan that captures a visual vision of your downtown. King Solomon said in Proverbs 29:18, without vision the people perish, or in the NIV, without vision the people are unrestrained. And the basic imagery is an absence of a vision, everybody's doing their own thing. And they could be even doing good things. But what a vision does is it restrains the potential ways that you can go so that everybody's moving in the same common direction. But as you cast this vision and you create this plan, I would advocate for two really important qualities. The first is that it's holistic. Mary talked about the 4-point approach to Main Street. Guess what? When we do master plans, we do the same thing. Market analysis to understand the local economy. Branding and marketing to tell your story compelling ways. Design and planning so that you look good and function well. Implementation strategies to get the job done. What does that sound like to you? Economic vitality, promotion, design, organization, right? It works. But the second approach, so in other words, for the market study that Jay's doing, enfold that into the plan. The branding that Tripp's going to talk about, enfold that into the plan. And then make it illustrative. Aristotle said the soul never thinks without a picture. You can tell me all day long what you want to do downtown. You can show me a strategic plan that's full of words, and I'm just going to yawn. Okay? Show me a picture. Show me the money. Show me a picture. And so make sure your plans are illustrative so that people can really see what you intend down here. You've got a lot of moving parts right now. I think you understand that. My understanding is City Hall is going to be relocating soon. You may have some buildings staying or going away. It's imperative that you know what's going to happen as those things change going in the future. And once you do, capture that plan in an illustrative poster. This is the master plan that Tripp and I worked on in Starkville, Mississippi. And when we were finished, we consolidated the entire report down to an executive summary poster. And we asked the merchants downtown to plaster these in your windows so everybody knew what our future intent was. And you could fold these up whenever you made those grant applications, and they could see, oh, this project is a part of fulfilling this overall plan. And now I want to just conclude with the power of vision. I know you see this place in your town all the time. This is full of potential, but do you see it? I do. So this is what I see. I mean, I see this powerful image of this bold statement as you come into town that welcomes you to downtown. Yes, we're making some concessions. We've heard that the City Hall might become a center for the arts. I'm just showing what it could be. Tripp, again, is going to talk about wayfinding. But again, just show people the potential of what simple places like this can be with some gestures like this. So now I'm going to let Jay talk about economic vitality.
Thank you, Randy. Hey, everyone. I have like the toughest job. I have to follow the design guy who has all these wonderful images and renderings, and you know I'm the numbers geek, right? So, man, you are in for a treat. My name's Jay. I'm with Downtown Professionals Network. We're based in the Nashville area. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time here in Alexander City. I hope to get back. I'm really excited for the possibilities. I'm going to talk a little bit about economic vitality, and let's just dive in. I've got a lot to share. Economic vitality of the 4 points is perhaps one that is most difficult for folks to wrap their arms around. What does that really mean? And the best way that we might be able to describe it is economic development, but it's within the context of historic preservation. So in other words, I mean, we already have a built environment. And those historic assets that we all cherish are what help to distinguish us in the marketplace. But if you want to take that one step further, Main Street economic development is within the context of an existing economy. We already have businesses. We already have investors. This economy and this built environment has evolved over the course of 100, 150 years or more. And so, unlike economic development that often happens in communities, and what folks tend to envision first is, kind of going out into that potato field and just plowing it up and putting down a foundation, and here goes an industrial park, or here comes a strip mall. That doesn't happen in downtown, and it shouldn't. What we need to do and think about is those folks that have already staked their claim here, that have made the investment, and the way that this community can embrace this space, as Randy says, is one that we all own, that we can all play in that space that we all share. So what does that look like on the street? And I just have some images here because economic vitality is happening here today, and I think sometimes it's just helpful for folks to see that in the eyes of an outsider that's been spending a few days here and kind of capturing glimpses of economic vitality already in place. Randy mentioned that you can put it to grit. And I truly buy into that as well. You have real cornerstones and foundations, a range of uses. How many communities would love to have a full-line grocery store right in the midst of their central businesses? And you have these new kinds of entries into the marketplace as well. And when you get inside, that's what really gets fun, because then you meet the people that are making it happen. You hear the stories behind these investments, behind these ideas. Downtown, that's what makes downtown special. So we started out just wanting to get to know you more, and actually we started out before we landed here. Those of you that joined us on Tuesday night at the visiting session, how many of you? I think most. Yeah, thank you for coming back. You know that we dipped our toe into what we call secondary data, that demographic, psychographic, and retail profile. One of the things that we're going to be leaving behind for you is this little market snapshot. It's just a 3 or 4 page document that summarizes 30 or 40 pages of data, and it's our hope that that'll become part of your collateral as you begin telling the story. But it needs to go beyond that secondary data, and so that's why we all got together here on Tuesday to kind of share ideas and begin to identify what might be some great opportunities or priorities for moving forward. Yesterday morning, we got out on the street, in and out of the businesses, and just having conversations with folks, trying again to better understand the motivations and what might be real important. Later in the day, we got together with a great group of high school students and heard their ideas, their perspectives. There were other interviews that we did, other groups that we met with. And as Mary mentioned yesterday late afternoon, we were right in front of the pig. And it was fun watching Tripp go out there and chase folks down, I think one girl was kind of worried you were going to take her groceries or something. Is that what it was? Okay. All right. So, I mean, what a great opportunity, though, just to get perspectives from a broad cross-section of the community. And it's not an effort that began on Tuesday and ends yesterday or today. It's an effort that we need to continue to unfold into our strategy. Now, those of you that were here on Tuesday night, that's when we launched our downtown Alexander City Pulse Poll. How many of you participated in that? Good. As you can see, you were joined by 60, 70 other folks throughout the course of the 3 days here. We're going to keep that open for another couple days, maybe even a week, just so that others that perhaps haven't had a chance to chime in yet can. And that also means if you don't like the results you see here, you can go and take it 3 or 4 more times and weight it in your direction. But just want to share with you some of what we learned as part of that. When we asked folks how strong is the sense of community or sense of place in downtown Alex City, well, you can see as a weighted average that could range from 0 to 5, it came in about 3.5, 3.6 there. Pretty good. What is downtown Alexander City known for? And that was an open-ended response. You could write anything in there that you wanted. And so we just did this little word cloud, and you do see some things that begin to stand out there. I think folks are missing Carlisle's. What do y'all think? Maybe? But you see things like boutiques and shopping and soda fountains. We asked, which of the following best describes recent trends in downtown Alexander City? Good news here, 61%. Almost 2 out of every 3 said improving or making progress. 23% said steady or holding its own. Only 16% said declining or losing ground. So there's something happening here. Folks are beginning to take note. They're recognizing that maybe things are happening. Maybe things are changing down here. We asked folks, how promising is the future of downtown Alexander City? And this is pretty consistent with that prior question. The weighted average here from 0 to 5 came right in at 3.61. So positive. What do you like most about downtown Alexander City? Here's where you begin to see some of those common threads again. It's talking about local, it's talking about family, but it's also talking about those folks inside the shops, the restaurants that are here, the coffee house, and other assets that are already part of this downtown economy and the downtown fabric. And then finally, what is the first thing you would do to improve downtown Alexander City? And you can see a lot of interest in perhaps adding to the entertainment and the restaurant scene in the downtown. Yeah, parking came up there. We're going to talk about parking. Carlisle's again came up. A good place to start. And it was good for us. I think in many cases, perhaps it's why you'll notice there are going to be a lot of common threads, themes popping up even amongst the 5 of us that are sharing our thoughts with you here today. So where does that go next? Let's talk about what that looks like, what economic vitality in the Main Street world looks like, taking that to the street. And really, I broke this into 2 areas, and it could probably be broken down into 3 or 4. In the short time that we have here today, we're only really scratching the surface of some of the opportunities that are out there. But the emphasis, while in Main Street circles, and having done this for almost 30 years, I know when we talk about economic vitality, oftentimes, and we talk about economic development, everyone wants to jump to the sexy part of that, recruiting new businesses, right? And what's the next new business going to be? And yes, that's part of what we do, but please, if you don't remember anything else that I have a chance to say here in the short time together, please remember this. Working with our existing businesses, working with investors that have already staked their claim in the downtown area has to be our first priority. Absolutely has to be our first priority. And it's also the best recruitment strategy when that time comes. Because many of those same folks are going to be our best prospects. And you already have a couple of folks down here that we refer to as serial entrepreneurs. You know, they kind of get their hands in this thing, they like that, they're successful, and they kind of move on to the next and the next and the next. The other thing about that, though, is that when it does come time, and maybe you're working with an entrepreneur, maybe you're working with a prospect that's kind of kicking the tires on opportunities here in downtown, let me tell you, there's nothing more compelling than to walk them around the downtown area, introduce them to folks behind the counters, introduce them to folks that have made the investment here, and they see big smiles on their face because they're making lots of money. I want part of that. So it's why it's absolutely essential that in everything we do, we're keeping the best interests of our existing investors and businesses in place. Now, I was really happy to hear that there are already plans in motion. As a matter of fact, I saw a draft of a downtown business survey questionnaire. We will share an example of the business survey questionnaire that we use. We're going to provide that to you as well. And the idea here, of course, is that rather than perhaps 2 or 3 people sitting around the table and kind of deciding, well, what do downtown businesses need and what are they looking for, let's go right to the source. And it's a great way just to invite and engage that all-important community as part of that. I mentioned earlier the chance just to get out and talk with folks, just to listen. And I will tell you, I will make a confession. In this day of electronic communication, and we're talking email, we're talking texting, I'm more guilty of this than anyone else in this room. And part of it is just by the nature of what I do, but I still don't have an excuse for what happened a few years ago when I called my wife. And she picked up the phone and she said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Well, babe, there's nothing wrong." She said, "Why are you calling?" And I said, "Well, you're my wife. I just kind of wanted to check in, right?" And she said, "You never call." Her first reaction when I actually picked up the phone and called her was something's wrong. And I think sometimes when we become so reliant on using the electronic communication and all of a sudden they actually see our face, we're picking up the phone, or we much less stop it and see. Maybe the first reaction is, oh, something's wrong, or they want something, right? They want something. So this engagement that happens on the street, that old school face-to-face, is absolutely important in building this and really nurturing this network. And that can be face-to-face, one-on-one. It can even be in small groups, roundtables, other networking kinds of opportunities that just bring the businesses together, bring investors together to share ideas and talk through some of the challenges and how we might be able to work together to find solutions to those. I'm always amazed. I shouldn't say always, but I'm too often amazed when we get into communities and we get 5 or 6 business owners around the table and they're making introductions like they're meeting each other for the very first time. It happens even in the smallest communities. So let's kind of embrace that old school kind of way of where we actually talk to each other, we actually know each other, and we can work together. That business survey and just having that kind of dialogue can also identify what might be some areas for businesses that are looking for help, whether it be in social media, whether it be making sure all of our businesses are on Google Maps, which is almost essential today for any business. And it's also a way to really tailor those different programs, those different incentives, those different tools out there directly toward the needs and the opportunities that are identified by the businesses. And Randy has already touched on that. The programs that you have in place already, including the facade program and the boost program, love it, love it, love it. Now, for the businesses that are here today, did you all know those existed before you got here? Do you know all the details to them? I see heads nodding, so that's good. I want everyone out there to know. And I think especially as you go through this process and take to heart Randy's suggestions for how you might focus some of that, some of those resources, it can only improve the environment, but also make sure that we're targeting it appropriately toward the business needs. I mentioned that I have to talk about parking. This is the P word, right? This is the P word. We have to talk about it. I understand the parking problem now. It's that you have, I didn't know if I was in Europe, if I was in Alexander City, because you have, I mean, look at this. He's parked this way. Wow. That's interesting. You know, I'm trying to recall. I don't recall if it was, I think it was Randy, perhaps it was Tripp that said that, you know, what that could be an indication of is that people are just used to pulling right up to the front door, regardless of which way they're facing. Now, would you believe that, not here, But in other communities, there are actually instances too of where business owners park in those prime spaces that should be for customers. Can you believe that? I said, no. Yeah, it happens. It happens. Not here, of course, right? Yeah, I know it's happening here too. And it's another good example of where we have to be part of the solution. And that's why we need to be working together and talking this through and coming up with solutions together. Randy mentioned earlier that the parking issue is not so much a matter of supply as it is management, and I wholeheartedly agree. This is about 12:30 on Tuesday afternoon. I had my choice. As a matter of fact, I just walked about a 2-block radius. I had my choice of anywhere up to 150, 200 parking spaces. Were they exactly in front of where I wanted to be at any particular time? No, maybe not. But I think as you begin to think about all of that asphalt out there, and the notion of increasing that asphalt with still more seas of parking when we have all of this parking still being underutilized, really diminishes the whole idea of building the density, of doing real development that creates that critical mass where we can all be entertained, have fun, do business, and succeed. So I'm going to share with you, this goes way back, talk about old school. You see this is actually where it was a punch, 3-hole punch, and I didn't have it electronically anymore, because this is way back when. But this is just an example of a little brochure that we did and we distributed to our downtown merchants, because unlike you, we had some merchants that were abusing the parking system and parking in those prime parking spaces, and oftentimes it's just a matter of awareness. But beyond that, we need to all be working together. And as difficult as that may be at some points, peer pressure is going to be most effective. And it means that, if Jamie's parking in that prime parking space, it's going to be up to me to go and kind of put my thumb in Jamie's shoulder and say, Jamie, I love you, you know that. But if you keep parking in that parking spot, we're not going to be friends. No, it's that kind of dialogue, though, that has to happen. We have to be working together to make that system work. So you've seen a lot of slides already, and so we're just going to do a quick little check here to make sure the eyes are still working. I see they're mostly open, which is good. Let's make sure. So I'm just going to show you a slide here. Tell me what you see.
Really want to know?
Yeah.
A nasty little entranceway.
A nasty little entranceway. Anyone else? Opportunity. Wasted.
A good logo, if somebody bought that building, that could be a good
The
logo.
logo is kind of cool, isn't it?
It's actually a business name, but it would be a good logo.
Whoop. Well, there are two or three answers, and they all could be right. Because what it is, it's an empty space right now, right? And that's what most people see. It's an empty space. Beyond that, it's lost economic activity. Donovan Ripkema, who is the guru, economic development guru in Main Street circles, did a study with Georgia Main Street a few years ago, and basically estimated that an average storefront, an unoccupied average storefront, can basically total up to about $387,000 in lost economic activity. And that's just for an average storefront. And this goes back a few years as you look at the numbers there, and I know they're so clear to you in that graphic back there. I actually tend to think he might have been a little bit conservative. It could be much larger than that. But just think about that for a moment. Every time you're walking up and down around the street and you see one of those empty storefronts, let's say he was only half right. Let's say it's $200,000 in lost economic activity. But by the time you go do that walk and you see these empty storefronts, $200,000, $400,000, $600,000, $800,000. I mean, these are big numbers in my neighborhood, and it just demonstrates that it's on all of our best interest to try to fill those spaces with vibrant uses. So Moving forward, we want to be able to promote those opportunities. You were right; those are opportunities, and sometimes it can be as simple as looking at that and saying, "Indeed, let's tell everyone that's an opportunity." Even little things like this can help make a positive statement and help highlight those opportunities in the downtown area. Now, one thing you're going to need to do is get a good grasp of that property inventory, the building inventory, and the status. Mary has already mentioned Community Maestro, which Main Street Alabama is providing to you to help make that happen. The other thing is that there were some buildings that, as you look at this, I was having a difficult time telling, is that unoccupied? Is there something in there? Others, of course, are more obvious. And then we heard about this building that apparently is in transition. Well, if that's the case, let's just try to identify those. Let's make a statement. Let's get folks excited that something's coming. And you can tell I'm not the design guy, right? But it doesn't take too much imagination to think about how we can celebrate the changes that are happening here. Now, what goes in those spaces, I can't tell you for sure. We've only scratched the surface, just dipped our toe into some research that might help guide us toward that. Some of the things that we heard, both in terms of eating and drinking places and in terms of retail kinds of uses, are captured here. And this comes from the last 2.5 days, from the poll and from the different engagement exercise. We, again, have only dipped our toe in the water. This is not a hard list, and certainly there could be other opportunities out there to pursue. That's why one of the things we're going to suggest is that we're really happy you're doing the business survey, but at some point in time, and not today, not even next month, but certainly by next year, probably need to be thinking about doing a comprehensive consumer survey where we actually go out and get a good sample from the community and better understand where those best opportunities might lie. And then as part of that, promoting those opportunities, we also want to be working to make sure that as we are talking with investors and prospects and entrepreneurs, we try to help them navigate that process. And it can be something as simple as this little guide to starting your business in downtown Alexander City, which is just kind of a 1, 2, 3. We heard, for example, that there was an effort to get together all the different zoning ordinances and all the different documents and put them in a packet for folks. I don't want to have to weed through that. I just need something simple. And most important, I need someone to help kind of guide me through that process. So this is a good start. And then working with Main Street, working with other development partners in the community, we can help navigate that process. The missing link. Do you know what's missing? The missing link. I heard about this missing link program that you did a year or two ago.
Missing piece. So close.
That's why it's missing. The missing piece. I'm sorry. The missing piece. Sounds like that was a big win for you. I heard not only did you land 1, but 2 additional businesses going through that process. I love that. And I don't know if it was just the stars were aligning, but I think it's certainly something worth revisiting and seeing if perhaps there's an opportunity to bring that back. There could be some different plays on that. I mean, there are all kinds of different retail challenges and startup kinds of programs out there. One that I just wanted to touch on quickly was the Show of Hands program from Wheeling, West Virginia. Wheeling, by the way, is one of the newest Great American Main Street Award winners just within the last 3 weeks here. This is very simple, and I think just based on what we've observed, this could be a real win for you. Basically, how this works is that the folks that want to enter Show of Hands, they go through a 3 sessions that just talk about business plans and talk about financing and some of those very basics of what it takes to open a business. And then, after they've completed that, they all come together and they have a chance to pitch their ideas, pitch their business ideas to the group that comes and throws $5 into the kitty. And the winner, after they've all presented, everyone shows hands. And the winner basically wins the pot, the entry, along with some matching funds that are provided by different sponsors of the program. So in this case, Sarah's on Main was the big winner with $5,800. I think something like that could be really cool here. And it would really be a way, again, of engaging all the different stakeholders and interested parties as part of that process. Another idea I just wanted to share with you, and Randy's already talked about alleys. This was inspired by some of what we heard in talking with your students yesterday. It reminded me of a project in Charlevoix, Michigan. And what this group of kids did is get together and actually come up with a design for Hoop Skirt Alley. And the idea of activating this space. And yes, that, by the way, that's snow. Anyone that didn't know, that is snow. That's not sand, that is snow, and they have it again today. But they got together with a designer and put together this. The kids look a little bit creepy in this sketch, I think, but they got together with a designer and put together this plan and then launched this campaign. Part of it was a crowdfunding kind of campaign where folks from the community had a chance to say, yeah, I want to get in. And then when they got up to $6,000, in this case it was actually matched by Michigan Economic Development Corporation. You could do something very similar to that. And this idea of making this a community project involving youth gives a chance for the business community, for the schools, for a lot of different organizations to buy in. The thing that becomes important here as we think about those students is, quite frankly, in many ways, they don't necessarily see that downtown today has a whole lot for them. In some ways, they feel like they've been shunned, that they're not welcomed in the downtown area. We need to turn that around. And if for no other reason, that population is a market that heretofore has been untapped in many ways. So this whole idea of coming together and making those kinds of things happen, yes, there's that benevolent and community part of it, but there's also a real market-driven part of it as well. Finally, as we think about opportunities, remember to look up. Now, this, of course, is the Mason Building, and we already know something's happening up there. Someone might have snuck up there yesterday at some point just to take a look around. Maybe. This is really exciting. I can't wait to see this. I understand it's condominiums, which I think is probably going to be a new product here in the downtown. We had a chance to meet with a couple of different property owners that do have housing units in the downtown. And what they told us is there is no problem whatsoever keeping those units filled. And what's interesting about that, too, is that sometimes, well, number one, it makes us wonder how many other opportunities are still untapped out there for housing in the downtown area. The other thing that we find in a lot of communities is that oftentimes, while commercial lease rates in a downtown might be some of the lowest in the community, upper level housing rates that are some of the highest in the community, because you can't build these things new anymore. You create these kinds of spaces that are, kind of raw, kind of funky, make use of the historic contours and materials. This is from Marion, Alabama. Who would have thought, right? This is a real untapped opportunity. I mean, you have some examples out there, but we feel like you've, again, only scratched the surface of what's possible. And then also thinking about, for those that might not be appropriate for housing, even having co-working kinds of spaces. It might be a great tie into what's happening at the Innovation Center out at the Chamber. Maybe this is that next step for some of those folks. So exciting times ahead, great opportunities. I'm looking forward to hearing what happens in the months and years ahead. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to turn it over to Trisha.
Great, thanks. We only have about 100 more slides. My name is Trisha Black, and I've been with Main Street, Alabama for 3 years. Before that, I was a local director in Athens for nearly 8 years. So I know how Stacy's feeling. It's a lot of information all at once, but just be reassured that we're here to hold your hand and don't get too overwhelmed. So I'm going to be talking about promotion. With promotion, what you want to do is you want to bring people back into the district. You may have residents that haven't been to the district in some time, so we need to reintroduce them to the district, as well as reach out to your visitors so they can come into your downtown and enjoy all the things that you have to offer. So how you can do that through promotion is through these different types: special events, tourism campaigns, image campaigns, and business promotion. So we're going to talk a little bit about each of those. Before we do, one of the things to remember when you're planning the promotions is that you need to ask yourself, is it driving foot traffic into the district? Is it driving sales? Is it ringing cash registers? Is it driving publicity? Is it getting the word out as your downtown as a destination? Or is it a fundraiser? So if it's not meeting one of those things, you don't need to be doing it. Then when you're looking at planning your promotional events, you need to talk to your businesses about when their sales are low. So, typically, as you get closer up into Christmas, the sales go up. And then plan those promotional events around that. Now, if you're on that promotion committee and you see all these arrows, you might get a little freaked out thinking you have to be organizing something all those different times. No, you've got a lot of organizations that are planning events. So when you look at your promotional calendar, plot all those events out. Okay, you don't have to do everything. Okay, but you can help and promote all those activities. Then I want you to talk to your customers about the peak season for your late Martin customers as well, because that's going to be a totally different market than what you're marketing to outside of that peak season. So with special events, we were asked this week about what could be a good signature event for the Main Street program. Right now, I wouldn't worry about doing a big signature event. It's going to take a lot of time and energy to do that. But instead, look and see how you can expand those existing events into the district. Jazz Fest sounds like it's a great event, but it's primarily in the park. How can we get some of that foot traffic into the district? Same with Sun Festival. I'm not sure if there's some things that do happen in the district here, but again, think about how you're going to drive those sales into your businesses. One way you can do that with any event that's happening in the park is offer these gift certificates. Go ahead and put it in your promotional budget, where they can have drawings, or if there's winners for particular categories. And basically what you're saying is within 2 weeks of that event, they can come back and spend $25 in one of those participating businesses. And then the Main Street program writes the business a check when they're notified that they've received one. So again, those businesses can see that they're benefiting from those special events that are happening, even if they're not happening right here. When you do have special events in the district, help educate your businesses on things that they can do to capture that audience that's right outside their door. I will share this document as well as probably a few more on business tips for your businesses. And when you do have a special event, make sure that you are promoting what they're doing inside those businesses with your event guide. Okay, because the event doesn't stop at that business's door. Okay, so you want to promote it throughout. So in its successful special events and business promotions, think about these elements, okay? You want music, food, overlapping activities, something for all ages, and something free. So if someone's doing a special event and you feel like they're missing one of these, that would be a great way for Main Street to step in to fill in those gaps. Now, this is an event, again, we don't want you to add to your promotional calendar, right? As far as adding a big signature event, we want you to capture what you've got. Your farmer's market is a great asset. And Joanna Banks had this great idea of a name to do a Saturday social, and we think it's a great idea. She talked to Tripp about it. Tripp got all excited about it. So I'm going to have him stand up and talk a little about this and what your train of thought was.
We love the idea. You're doing the farmer's market already. This whole idea, we're from the South. We like being social. He brought that up. This whole idea of a Saturday social where it can be a collection of events. Imagine if what you're doing, rather than Main Street organize this, rather than be we've got to get all this booked and everything. No, you're actually getting a local church, a local city. 3 different groups, a scout troop, and they're doing an event in different places while the farmer's market is going on. And people are going, and it becomes a little bit of friendly competition. The scout troop is competing with the choir at go see, the Lions Club do something, or see the kids do something, and they're going to each other's event. And it's making it social. Get those churches involved, those youth groups involved. And as was said before, this is the common ground. So the next slide. We really do base it on an activity that's happening in Starkville, Mississippi. They call it New South Weekends. And it has transformed their weekends. Basically what was happening is football would come, downtown would be jammed out Saturday, everything was closed on Sunday. Well, this restaurant started opening for brunch, and the shops started opening for brunch at Browse. And they have a whole series of events they've launched as part of that weekend. We'll talk more about the branding of that in just a little bit.
Great. So in that same concept, doing your Saturday social, as Randy mentioned, as far as creating that stickiness, pull out some of these activities. Because again, what we've heard is that we want stuff for the youth to do in the district. And you can go a step further by having a storage building where you're actually storing these items, and let other organizations check this stuff out and let them use it during their events. And so we were calling that community toy chest. I talked to a lot of people about the entertainment district here, and I haven't seen anyone utilizing that. This is something they're doing in downtown Huntsville, and it is the Purple Cup Secret Art Walk. And it's something that you can put together, put on your website. It could be self-guided. And basically, you're just encouraged to go from place to place with your drink. You could provide some branded cups if you'd like. And actually check off these places and try to find all the art installments. Or you could just capture on different iron elements. Okay, so that could be even played into a scavenger hunt, into your Saturday social. Maybe have an event where everyone that finds all these items is entered to a drawing to win some of that Main Street money. Okay, so again, pulling those people back into the businesses after that event. But again, this doesn't cost you any money. Okay, so it's a quick and easy activity that you can do. When you're looking at doing tourism, and again, understand the city and the county are both hiring a tourism person, so that's great. When JoJo Terry, which is with Alabama State Tourism, was telling us recently that Pinterest is really on a comeback now. People are really all over Pinterest. So I just typed in Lake Martin, Alabama. And what I'd like to see is when you type that in, I want to see some things about Alexander City here. Okay, so start thinking about plugging in things that are happening in your district here. With image campaigns, I'm not going to get real deep into that because I'm going to let Tripp do that. But one of the things that you need to do is get in front of negative perceptions. This is a picture, I believe this is Salad City. Is this Salad City? So if people are saying that your district isn't clean, then you show people in your district actually picking up, right? And you plaster that on social media. Like Jay talked about, change that narrative about that empty space into being a space that could be filled with opportunity. And then when you have a new business open, just put a sandwich board out and get some excitement going. Right now, it'd be great if you could just put a sign out that says Carlisle's come back, right? So again, just simple things you can do to change that narrative. With business promotions, I thought about Madison House, and I'm sure there's some women that are decorating their lake houses. So it would be great fun if she actually had some posts on here where she's doing lake decor, Lake Martin, home of Lake Martin, Alexander City, but she can actually do demos. So here, this is an oar with photo frames. She could actually have a video that's into YouTube posted here to show how to make this, right, to add to lake decor. So just thinking outside of the box on how to use Pinterest and YouTube. In Anniston, this lady is a character. She's got a boutique called Rosalie, and she does these live videos, and it's really like Home Shopping Network. Okay, and the whole time she's doing it, she's doing her hair like this, and she's looking at herself. But she'll post like earrings and say, "I've got 3 of these left. They're normally $25. Now they're $10." And so people are putting comments in saying, "I want that." And so she said, "Okay, great, sold. Come pick them up next week." Okay, just a fun. You need to check her out, guys. And then Ooh La La has a VIP exclusive group. This is a great way to capture and give people the opportunity to buy items before they even hit the shelves. Okay, so say, look, we got the shipment in, and people are commenting, and they are saying, I want that item, and they're able to come in and it's already packaged, and all they have to do is pay for it. This is a business in Arab that I have been trolling on social media. It's called the Deep South Mercantile. They haven't been open very long. They're probably not even 6 months. But I love that what they do on their social media is they go and package gift items into gift baskets. And all you have to do is message them and tell them you want gift basket B, and it's going to be a flat rate of $7 for them to ship it to you. So they are getting that customer. You go to Amazon, they're not going to package it all pretty like that, right? So they're giving they're elevating that customer service. Then tap into YouTube. I like to tell the story that at least once a year my garbage disposal breaks down. So I'm always going on YouTube, how to fix my garbage disposal. Well, you can do that on how to do braids. Or there's a lot of ways that your service businesses can tap in and put those videos out there. Another thing you consider as far as adding to your existing events, I want to talk a little bit about WassleFest, and that is in Columbus, Mississippi. And what they do as a thank you to those downtown businesses that support their program, they have a night, I believe it's the second Saturday in December, and they tell the businesses that all we want is a gift basket, that you're willing to do a gift basket for a door prize, and you're willing to be up until 8 o'clock, and you're willing to make a batch of cider. Okay, it can be nice cider, it can be nice and naughty. That's up to them. And then the Main Street program provides all the cups, does all the marketing, plans activities like roasting marshmallows, has Santa walking around, train rides, and it really becomes a very popular event. The attendee has a ballot, and they go around and they rank, judge all the ciders. And if they go to over 75% of those businesses, they're entered in to win that door prize. All the score sheets are tallied. The winner of the cider competition gets all the glory and naming rights and a trophy. But then those people that are entered into that drawing, they win the door prize, but they don't come to the Main Street office to pick it up. They're going to that business to pick it up, and we encourage those businesses to have that door prize in the back of the store. Okay, so again, getting people in the door when they may have not ever been to that store to begin with. You can do the same concept, a similar concept with Chocolate Walk. That's an easy event to do. Sell tickets, ask all your businesses to have a chocolate treat, just limit it to 100, 200, so you're not overwhelming the businesses, and that's a great event to do January, February, when sales are down. Same concept with Cookie Walk. You can provide tins for the participants, and then have different cookies at each stop. I love this cross promotion. I'd like to see more of your businesses doing this. The mimosas and makeovers, great. Where you can have a mimosa and actually, was it Shadings? Yeah, Shadings that did that makeover piece. And this is some other promotion ideas in Monroeville. They do Win the Window. So during the holiday season, Christmas holiday season, they have an item from each of the downtown businesses in a vacant storefront window. If you spend over, Mary's at $25 in a business, every time you do that, you get a chance to be entered into the drawing. And towards the end of the holiday season, they draw and you win everything in the window. This is an example from Florence, where you buy something, you spend $25 in a business, you get a stocking, you draw, and it has a special or a coupon for another store outside of that business. So that's, yeah. All right, and then remember quality over quantity. Plan those events at least 6 months, if not longer. Know your target audience. Jay talked about the psychographics, the cozy country living that makes up the residents and the people that rent the drive time here. So when you're targeting your events, and that's who you want to target, look at what stations they're listening, radio stations they're listening to. What TV shows are they watching, so you know how to target that. But if you want to reach the Lake Martin audience, ask your business to start collecting zip codes, and you can actually spend some time pulling up those zip codes online for free, and it'll give you a glimpse of what their shopping habits little bit about what they're watching. Okay. Let's see, more quality events versus quantity. So don't add any more events unless you're building on what you already have. Canva is a great tool if you want to generate something quick and easy, and you may have to pay $1 if you get a graphic that an image that's outside of your free library. That Main Street money, I did that on Canva, and I think I paid $1 for that. Curate with quality photos. Make sure you always have someone that's taking those photographs. You will want that the next time you're doing the event. And evaluate. So shortly after you do your promotion, you need to ask, did it achieve those goals that we had at the beginning? To what extent did the promotion contribute to the program's mission? Was the end result worth the amount invested? And what was the level of both merchant and customer satisfaction? Ask those questions and make your notes, and then make the changes for the event for the next year. And then we'll be sharing this document with you as well. It's a keep, combine, or kill evaluating downtown events. This is something that Michigan Main Street program did. Great tool for you to start using and looking at your events. So with the special events and the tourism and the business promotions, if you want to really tie this all together and take everything to the next level and really like going from good to great, then you really need to have that coordinating branding, and that's where I'm going to have Tripp get up and talk about branding.
I'm Tripp Muldrow. We are officially in overtime, and so I'm the branding guy, and I'm the guy that's here to kind of talk to you. We've talked a lot about going from good to great. I'm going to talk to you about a real challenge you got, and that's branding. In this community, you for a long time have relied on a company to define you. And having a corporate community like this, when they're gone, who are you? Who are you now? And perception is everything. And so, you can look at this car. How much you pay for this car? Mercedes? 60, 50,000? When really, this is a Kia, made down the road in Georgia, in West Point, Georgia. So how do we do this branding? Y'all are the do's and don'ts of branding. Y'all are in the throes of this right now, and you're doing some of the don'ts and you're doing some of the do's. Design by committee is disaster. It is a recipe for calamity. Don't do it. Thankfully, you're not doing a design contest. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen a community do. But both of those lead to calamity. It's just a mess. Don't confuse the organization with the destination. They're two different things. When I'm coming down here, I want an experience. If I'm a consumer, it's great that y'all putting it on, but I don't really care who put it on as long as it's fun. And so it's got to be a system. How do you create a kit of parts? How do you involve the community in their own identity so that the community can define who we are rather than someone outside defining who you are? Perception is reality. And if you don't define who you are in Alexander City and in this downtown, you can doggone well bet someone else is. And they're going to say, that's that city that used to have Russell Athletics in it. That's what they're going to say, unless you define it a different way. And you're doing too much right to leave this on the table. So many communities, when you get designed by committee, I want this in the logo: tomatoes, pumpkins, haystack, cucumber, so forth, strawberries, apples, sailboat, pine tree, college building, tree line road. We got to cram everything in here because we have got to tell them what we've got. Well, if that's the way it worked, there'd be a computer on the back of this. My Nikes would have a shoe on them. My Hyundai would have a car, on there. That's not how we're branded. We're branded through how we feel and how a place makes us relate to where we live. So I'm going to give you a case study, and this case study is Rutland, Vermont. Rutland is a community where we came in and we inherited this ought to look familiar to y'all. This is how they were defined. This is their school district. I couldn't even enlarge the thing because it was pixelated. This is their city seal, which I don't even know what that is. This is their economic development. Looks real progressive, And so, in your branding, how do we get some consistency? And so I'm giving y'all a branding scorecard to score Alexander City on your branding. And I'm not talking just about Main Street. I'm talking about the city itself, Main Street, the chamber, economic development, the community as a whole, the school district. Font. It's not just a font. It's not just a logo. It's not just colors. It's not just tagline. But I am going to talk about all those. So for Rutland, what was this community? This was a city of about 16,000 located in an amazing natural environment. Sound familiar? Rutland, connected naturally. And so that's the destination brand for the community. It became the tool by which they go from logo, tagline, to simple icon. And when you see this now in Rutland, you know what it means. It means the community that they're in. It's a tool where these are the road rules that we ride in. We're not doing hot pink in Rutland. We're doing the colors that are found in the natural environment. The city, yeah, you can keep that seal. It's a raging train wreck, but that's fine. Put it next to the font to keep it consistent. So when the city does business, it looks like it's doing things official. The downtown as a destination and the downtown as an organization. Two different things, but conveying that to the community. And then you get to expand it, recreation and parks. The Chamber of Commerce, these guys were kicking and screaming. They did not want to change their logo. They were the first ones to change their logo at the end. Not critiquing your chamber at all. Great chamber, great logo. I'm just saying, sometimes your partners who are kicking and screaming can be your biggest advocates in brand. Carrying the brand over to identity in your events and activities. Carrying it over to partners who you didn't think you had. Curating the visitor experience as they come through so that the moment they hit your city limit, to the moment they park, to the time they get in the door, even before that, the moment they hit Google and type your name, your identity is showing up. And it never leaves them until they're walking out with a t-shirt they bought or a mug they bought or a 6-pack of beer that's branded with the local community. And so you've seen this slide a million times, but all this, keeping it consistent throughout, giving that message of what this community is about and making it work, connecting farmers with families. Live connected, naturally connected dining. So what are y'all doing here in Alex City? Well, bless your hearts, I'm just going to say. I'm from South Carolina. Y'all got a lot going on. I don't know about this seal. I don't know how long it's been since y'all seen this baby. That was a good one. I can't get a good copy of that, but if y'all get me one, I'll work it into the presentation. The school district, the signs y'all taken down, blessedly. You got some new ones coming. This is your city website. There's no identity. Zero. Your downtown, this is one. As I said, this is not exhaustive. There's multiple iterations of typeface, color, and treatment here. It just doesn't say who you are. We feel like you're on the path to getting some things done, and we feel like by replacing your gateway signs and getting some consistency, you're starting to do some things that make sense. So you're taking down the circus signs and you're putting up something that's a little more clean and a little more, and so we're saying, let's go with that. Y'all have been batting back and forth some ideas on this. If I've seen one of these little streetscapes, I've seen a million of them. It's like the Sharks and the Jets. It's either a building streetscape like that or a lamppost or a clock. And we're suggesting get rid of it and make it clean so that people understand that this place can be conveyed in a much simpler, more elegant way. And maybe even think about taking it that step further and having it elevated to the point where when this brand goes up next to a Russell Lands brand, they are as powerful to that person that has the $1 billion house on the lake as the person that has the house in the Mill Hill. That they believe that this city is living up to all the good work that you have done restoring these buildings putting these incentives together and having a place that is worthy of people. Y'all have done the hard work. You have ordered the food and booked the band and decorated the room, but you forgot to send the invitation out. And so this is your chance. And when we talk about this identity, how do you transfer this into the ideas that these guys are talking about? So the community toy chest. Now, I know that's 2 words. We were in a hurry. But, you know, having these things branded so that if I'm a high school student, I'll go, I know I'm going to go check out some tables and chairs, and we're going to do this with the Key Club this afternoon because I'm going to beat the Methodists over here. They're going to be singing down the way, you know. The Saturday social, having that branded, having that identity. Now, I'm not suggesting y'all go this. What I'm suggesting you do is you pair up with the new tourism director, the chamber, the city, and Main Street, and y'all get together around the table and say, how are we going to communicate who we are? Because it's important for economic development, it's important for downtown, it's important for the unemployed person who's here to be able to have pride in the place where they live. The next thing, I'm going to get off my high horse soon and we'll be done. It's 252 out of 265 slides. I've got 13 more to go. We're going to be done. Wayfinding. Y'all have let DOT, they dominate. I know. Y'all got signs you're ordering. Good. Let's get them up. Let's get those fountains down. Y'all can do what you want to. I don't want one. All your wayfinding is governed by federal regulation, MUTCD. And so that's the traffic engineer's Bible. That's what dictates what goes on. It mandates that you're compliant with certain standards. So it needs to be a partnership, but it needs to be from the city limit line to the point where you park your car all the way through. It's a complex process of defining where your destinations are. Our DOTs do a great job of getting us out of a place. They do not do a good job of curating the experience. So if I'm going to Sportsplex, do I know how to get to downtown? If I'm downtown, do I know how to get to Sportsplex? If I'm in the state park, do I know how to get downtown? If I'm downtown, do I know how to get to the state park? No. No, it's by chance. Particularly because y'all are like my hometown, the roads come in every which way. You know, they're all, you know, mapping it out, showing the destination, showing the routes, taking that brand that you have, and then turning it into a curated wayfinding sign system. What this ends up doing, you actually reduce the number of signs while increasing the destinations. Because you can take down all that accrued detritus that has occurred over the past 70 years and put up fresh new signs that can come through. So from the vehicle side to the pedestrian side to gateway signs to neighborhood entries, all of these become ways to communicate to the community. I'm going to wrap up with a video, and then we just 2 slides left. All of the brand new graphics is important, but you've got to tell your story. So I want you to listen and watch what you say.
Do you hear that sound? It's the sound of movement. It's the sound of progress. It's the sound of people want to work each day, opening shops, prepping the kitchen, doing the work keeps this town and our nation moving ahead. Do you hear that beat? It's the resonance of spirit, the spirit of a place that turns all in a fairground back into a downtown. It's the spirit of a place where a gentleman can still find food, and a lady can buy a dress, shops owned by people who live here, people who care. It's the spirit of a place where fine dining meets downtown. It's the spirit of a place where people gather to celebrate and unwind. Do you do that rhythm? It's the hum of a factory just up the road where Americans build cars. It's the echo of a place rebuilt after winds tore it apart in the 30s. It's the flip of a switch that illuminated a whole community. It's the sound of steps Footsteps of a boy and his mom who walked into a hardware store to buy a gun, came up with a guitar, and went on to change the world. We are the makers of this sound and the keepers of the rhythm in a place called Tupelo. An all-American city with all the warmth of Mississippi. We invite you to experience our song and shape our future. We are Downtown Tupelo. American rhythm, true Southern spirit.
What you see for Tupelo and what you saw for Rutland was done in 3 days each. 3 days. And so I really think y'all need, I want to turn over to Stacy, the brand score that we worked on yesterday. I want y'all to score yourselves on your brand. Most communities score low. Contemplate doing a collaborative community branding initiative. 3 days worth of work, it can be transformative. It will reward all the good work that you've been doing. Install your replacement signs. Let's get those babies ordered. Let's get that streetscape off of them, if you don't mind. If y'all want to keep it on there, we can discuss it later. Consider a phased wayfinding system to be implemented later. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mary for the last slide. I'm sorry I went into overtime, but the branding to me really is an important piece of this because y'all are doing a lot right. Thanks.
Give them all a hand. So I get to talk to you a little bit about next steps. So I just want you to know when we leave here today, this isn't the last you'll see of us. Trisha and I are with the state coordinating program. Our job is to continue to work with our programs. And it holds a special place in my heart for a program that's the age of your program, because I worked in a program myself that had been around for a long time and didn't always feel like our state coordinating program showed me the love they were showing the new programs. So I am so thrilled to be able to bring this service to you guys and know that we're going to continue to come in and work with you. So the next piece that will happen is we'll come back in, we'll give you everything that we did in 3 days here, craziness. We'll get put into a strategic planning guide that will carry you through your next 3 to 5 years. That'll take us about 6 weeks to put together. And then Trisha and I will come back in and present it to you with more meat than we were able to put into this, as well as implementation strategies. Then we'll come in and we'll come in and do a work planning session with you to make sure that we've got stuff in each of the 4 points. You have a brand new director, so she's going to be required to go to basic training. So I have other dates, but this is one of the ones that I had up there. It's really good to be able to come to that and immerse yourself fully in basic training. We have several different dates because we're bringing on new cities. June 3rd, we'll announce what 3 new cities we're bringing on this year. So I don't know where it's going to be yet. Somewhere. It'll be fun. You can come play with us. Anybody's invited to that. The next things we have coming up, upcoming training opportunities. May 14th, we have a webinar that's going to talk about understanding your tax status and what that means as a 501c3, a C4, a C6, whether you need to have a for-profit LLC that goes along with. It's really a nice training that's coming up. That's a free webinar. Everything went out on it today. So on social media, if you click on Main Street Alabama's website, you're going to see Uncle Sam going, I want you to understand your tax status. So that's the next thing coming up. Then August 21 through the 23rd is our annual conference. We call it the Alabama. We think we're cute. We are. So it's the lab. We do it, and this year it'll be in Decatur. Then October 23rd, we'll have Joe Lonizak in Wetumpka, Alabama, talking about the secret to good design. I've actually had him on this. I've been to his presentation before. He's pretty darn entertaining. You'll enjoy him. And then December 3rd, we'll have another webinar. That's to be determined because we're a tad bit busy. But we're close. I'll have that set here pretty quick. If you want to know more about Main Street Alabama and what we have going on, check into our website. Thank you guys so much for your time. I know this has been an intensive 3 days for you. We're here for you. We're not leaving and never coming back. You can plan on us continuing to be a part of what you guys do. And I want to thank you again for the 20 plus years you've already done this and all the wonderful things you've done, and recognize one of your former directors in the audience tonight, Marcia Bengston, coming back to learn more about Main Street. So Thank you all so much. We appreciate your time. And again, this is being recorded, so you'll have access to it later. Have a good night.